All right. Buckle up, everybody, because we are diving into the wild world of Bitcoin mining today.
Mining?
Well, not just the mining itself. We're going even deeper.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about the hardware, the brains of the operation.
The ASICs.
You got it. ASICs. These things are crazy powerful, way beyond your normal computer chip.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole different ballgame.
And to help us break it all down, we've got some awesome insights from an interview with Haris Basit.
Bitdeer, right?
Yeah, he's the chief strategy officer over at Bitdeer.
He really knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to chip design.
Oh, for sure. Dude's a legend in the semiconductor world. And he gave us a really cool look at how they engineer these ASICs, these little powerhouses, for crazy efficiency.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. I mean, you're basically trying to cram trillions of calculations per second into something tiny.
And not have it burst into flames.
Right, exactly. Managing all that heat is a huge part of the challenge.
Okay, so here's the thing about Bitdeer that I find super interesting. They're not just designing these ASICs.
Right.
They're mining with them, too. And they're hosting them for other miners. It's like a full-stack Bitcoin mining operation.
Yeah, it's a really smart approach. Gives them a big advantage.
Totally. They see the whole picture, from the chip design all the way to the actual mining. And another thing that caught my eye, Bitdeer's got mining operations all over the place, 3 different continents.
Global.
Yeah. They've even got a site in Bhutan that's completely powered by hydroelectric.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Pretty cool, right? Shows are thinking about sustainability, which is huge these days.
Yeah, for sure. The whole energy consumption thing is a big deal for Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of ASIC design. Haris really geeked out with us about this stuff. So it's not just about shrinking transistors, right? It's got to be more complicated than that.
Way more complicated. It's like next level physics, power management. You wouldn't believe it, but it even gets into quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics? Come on! You're messing with me!
I'm serious. Haris was explaining how these quantum effects, they actually mess with something called leakage current.
Okay.
And that impacts the chip's efficiency big time. Basically, as those transistors get smaller and closer together, and we need them tiny for more power, the chances of these electrons like tunneling through barriers increases, especially at higher temperatures.
Tunneling. Like magic.
It's quantum stuff. But basically, this tunneling wastes energy, and that makes the chip less efficient.
Wow. So they're battling these tiny particles that just break the rules.
It's wild, right? And that's where Bitdeer's approach gets really interesting. They're using the latest tech, of course, super tiny transistors, like 3 nanometer, 4 nanometer, from companies like TSMC.
The best of the best.
Exactly. But they're also kind of going rogue. They're developing a whole new circuit design with their Seal series of chips. Instead of just shrinking transistors, they're really focusing on innovation at the architecture level.
So they're not just upgrading the engine, they're designing a whole new car.
Exactly. It's a risky move, honestly. Most of the industry is all about those smaller transistors.
Right.
But Bitdeer seems pretty convinced there's a lot more potential in rethinking how these chips are built from the ground up.
It's like they're taking the road less traveled.
Totally. And to give you an idea of how ambitious they are, their Seal 4 chip, it's projected to hit 5 joules per terahash.
5 joules per what now?
Terahash. It's a measure of how much energy it takes to do a certain amount of mining work.
Okay, so the lower the better. Right.
Exactly. And 5 joules per terahash is insanely good. Most ASICs out there are operating at like 20, 30, even higher.
Wow. That's a huge difference.
Huge. A chip this efficient could really shake things up in the industry.
Okay, but before we get ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
why does efficiency even matter so much in Bitcoin mining?
Well, it all comes down to profitability, really. A more efficient ASIC means you can mine more Bitcoin with the same amount of energy, which obviously affects your profits.
Right, makes sense.
And it ties back to that whole energy source thing. If you can make the same profit using less energy, well, you're also shrinking your environmental impact.
They win-win then.
Exactly. And Bitdeer's tackling both of those challenges head on, profitability and sustainability.
And they're doing it by basically rewriting the rules of chip design. I mean, this is cutting-edge stuff.
Absolutely. Haris was telling us about how even the tools they use to design these chips, they're having to build some of them themselves.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah, the existing tools just aren't equipped to handle the kind of unconventional circuits they're creating.
So not only are they making groundbreaking chips, They're having to invent the tools to even design them.
It's next level stuff. They're not just pushing the boundaries, they're redrawing them entirely.
Amazing. And to think they're doing all of this with the goal of making Bitcoin mining more efficient, more profitable, and ultimately more sustainable.
It's a pretty incredible mission when you think about it.
Totally. And Harris brought up something else that I think is easy to overlook: a crazy efficient mining rig. It's not just about the chip itself.
It's the whole package.
Yeah, it's the whole ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
the printed circuit boards, the cooling solutions.
It's like a high-performance race car, right? You need a powerful engine, sure, but you also need a chassis that can handle it, a transmission that can transfer the power.
And a way to keep it from overheating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to win any races.
And in the world of Bitcoin mining, that's what it's all about: staying ahead of the game. And that means pushing the limits of efficiency and performance.
Absolutely. And that's where things get even more interesting, because we're starting to see some really cool innovations in cooling solutions for Bitcoin mining. Things like liquid cooling, immersion cooling.
Stuff that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction.
I know, right? But it's real, and it's becoming more and more common, and it can make a huge difference in terms of efficiency.
So it's not just about making the chip itself more efficient, it's about creating a more efficient environment for it to run in.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach.
I like it. So it sounds like we've got a lot to unpack here, from those tiny transistors all the way to those massive industrial scale mining rigs. And then there's the whole sustainability angle, which is huge.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, for sure. But it's fascinating stuff, and I think it really highlights how much innovation is happening in the world of Bitcoin, even as it matures.
Absolutely. And Bitdeer's definitely at the forefront of that innovation.
No doubt.
It really is amazing how all these pieces come together. It's like this incredible dance between the hardware, the software, the energy.
It's a delicate balance, for sure.
Totally. And speaking of balance, you mentioned earlier that Bitdeer's kind of playing both sides with their ASIC development. They're using those super tiny transistors, but they're also really going all in on their seal chips.
Right, the two-pronged approach.
Exactly. What's the strategy there?
Well, I think it's about hedging their bets, but also, pushing boundaries. On one hand, using the smaller transistors from those advanced process nodes, that's a proven path to better efficiency, even if it is getting really expensive and complicated.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But with the seal chips, they're betting big on their own designs. Like, that's the core of their efficiency strategy.
So it's like they've got a backup plan, but they're also trying to invent something totally new.
Exactly. And I think it speaks to their confidence in their own team.
That's so cool. Okay, so for someone like me who's not exactly a chip whiz,
Yeah.
what makes these seal chips so special? What are they doing differently?
Okay, imagine you're building a house.
Okay.
You could use those pre-built walls, roof trusses.
Yeah, like prefab stuff.
Exactly. Quick and easy.
Yeah.
But if you want something truly unique, something totally optimized, you might start cutting your own lumber, assembling each piece by hand. That's kind of what Bitdeer's doing with these seal chips. Instead of just using pre-designed blocks from the foundries,
Right.
they're creating their own from scratch at the transistor level.
Wow. So they're like master craftspeople, but with computer chips.
Basically.
That's some serious dedication. But why go through all that? What's the advantage of building it all themselves?
Control, mostly,
Mm-hmm.
and optimization.
Okay.
They can fine-tune every single aspect of that chip's design
Right.
to be as efficient as possible for Bitcoin mining. It's a painstaking process, but the end result is something special.
It's like they're not just building ships, they're sculpting them.
That's a great way to put it. It's art and science.
It really is. But this level of like customization, it's got to come with its own challenges.
Oh, for sure. Harris was telling us about how one of the biggest hurdles is actually the software.
Really?
Yeah, they use electronic design automation tools
Okay.
to design the chips. But the thing is, most of these tools aren't really built to handle these crazy circuits they're coming up with. It's like trying to write a novel using only emojis.
I can see how that would be a problem.
Right, so not only are they making these groundbreaking chips, but they're also having to create the software to even design them.
That's insane.
It's a testament to how innovative they are.
Totally. And all of this incredible effort, it's to make Bitcoin mining more efficient, more profitable, and of course, better for the environment.
Which brings us back to that 5 joules per terahash target. For their Seal 4 chip, that's a massive leap in efficiency.
Yeah, you keep mentioning that number, 5 joules per terahash. For those of us who are still wrapping our heads around all this,
Right.
What does that actually mean? Like, how big of a deal is that?
Okay, imagine two cars, both can travel 100 miles.
Okay.
One needs 10 gallons of gas, the other only needs 5.
I'm going with the second car. Save some money.
Exactly. And it's way better for the environment.
Mm.
And it's the same principle here. Think of the fuel as the energy to power the ASIC, and the distance traveled as the amount of Bitcoin you can mine.
Oh, okay, I get it.
So a chip that hits 5 joules per terahash, it's basically doubling the fuel efficiency of most mining rigs out there.
So they're producing the same amount of Bitcoin using way less energy.
Exactly. That's a game changer.
It sounds like it. So it's good for the miners, good for the environment.
And it's good for Bitcoin as a whole.
How so?
Well, if more efficient chips like this come online, the total energy used by the entire Bitcoin network goes down, even if the amount of mining activity stays the same or even increases.
So it's like this ripple effect.
Exactly.
Advancements in technology lead to a more sustainable and efficient system overall.
That's the idea. And that's what makes this whole field so exciting.
I can imagine. It's like this constant push for innovation, always trying to outdo each other.
It's an arms race, but instead of weapons, they're building more efficient, more sustainable tools.
That's a much better arms race. And speaking of building, we've talked a lot about the chips themselves.
Right.
But Harris also mentioned moving away from those like traditional shoebox mining rigs towards something more industrial strength.
Yeah, he actually mentioned data centers as inspiration, aiming for greater reliability, scalability, thinking bigger picture.
So instead of those like DIY setups we see in a lot of places, it'll be more like like those powerful servers you'd see in a data center.
Exactly. Think about it. As Bitcoin mining gets bigger, more established, you need hardware that's built to last, right? Not just thrown together.
Right. Makes sense.
And this could actually make mining more accessible to regular people, too.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, imagine if you could buy a pre-built mining rig, industrial grade, optimized for those crazy efficient ASICs Bitdeer's making.
Right. You wouldn't have to be an electrical engineer to get started.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
could really level the playing field.
I like it.
Yep.
Okay, so we're talking about these big, powerful rigs. Can't forget about cooling. That was something Harris kept coming back to, especially as those chips get more powerful, generate more heat. It's got to be a challenge.
Oh, huge challenge. You know, Harris said something that really stuck with me. He said, increasing the temperature of electronics, even just 10 degrees Celsius, it can cut their lifespan in half.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, that blew my mind. Just a little bit hotter,
Yeah.
and suddenly these things are dying twice as fast.
Crazy. Okay, so those advanced cooling solutions we talked about,
Right, you're right.
the liquid cooling, immersion cooling, those are even more important than we might think.
Totally. They're not just a luxury.
Yeah.
Especially as you push for more efficiency from the chips themselves.
Right, right.
Those chips are running full blast, and those cooling systems are the only thing keeping them from melting down.
It's like a high-stakes balancing act.
It really is.
So we've covered a ton of ground here. We've talked about tiny transistors, massive mining rigs. It's clear that Bitdeer is really pushing the boundaries with their approach to efficiency.
Absolutely. And I think it all comes back to their mission, right? To make Bitcoin mining more sustainable.
Yeah, totally. But if they pull this off, if they actually hit their goals with these new chips, I mean,
It could be huge.
it really could change the game for Bitcoin as a whole, right?
Right. Think about it. If Bitcoin mining uses way less energy,
Yeah,
one of the biggest criticisms goes away.
the environmental impact.
Exactly. And that opens the door for more people to get involved, more institutions.
It's not just about making mining more profitable, it's about securing the future of Bitcoin itself.
That's a really good way to put it. It's about long-term viability.
Yeah.
Making sure Bitcoin is here to stay.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a wild ride, from those microscopic transistors to these massive industrial scale operations. It's clear that Bitdeer's not just following the crowd, they're charting their own path.
Yeah, they're definitely one to watch.
For sure. And a huge thank you to Haris Basit for taking the time to talk to us, to share his expertise.
He was a great guest. Really knows his stuff.
He really does. And for our listeners, if you're as excited about Bitdeer as we are, if you want to learn more about their work, we'll be sure to include links in the show notes.
Definitely check them out.
Yeah, you can see those Seal ASICs for yourself, learn more about their whole approach to mining. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It really is.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the world of efficient Bitcoin mining. For now, anyway, we'll be back soon with more fascinating stories from the world of tech, crypto, all that good stuff. So make sure you're subscribed, stay tuned, and most importantly,
Stay curious.
couldn't have said it better myself.